rule and his disrespect for the destruction of our democracy. I think anyone at the march here in Santa Barbara could also give you a list. And I don't doubt it. But that's not what was on the signs, Peggy. The destruction of our democracy, I need to have some data on that. You guys in Santa Barbara being prevented from protesting or voting or anything? So how is the democracy in Santa Barbara being destroyed? I just need to know that. And then on the other issues, on News Nation, I ran them down. And I said, okay, you don't like his authoritarianism. All right. But if he were a king, you wouldn't be out there protesting because he'd have you all beheaded. Right? That's what absolute monarchs do. But your head's still there, whether it's on straight or not. But I appreciate the commentary. I do. I want you to challenge me, but I think that was all a contrived event. But I do think you're correct that most of the people who do not like President Trump reject his authoritative approach. I think you were right on that. In a moment, something you might not know. Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. With the free Upside app, you can earn real cash back every time you fill up. Just download Upside from the App Store or Google Play and use promo code BILL. Get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. Listeners are earning $200 to $300 a year from buying gas they already need. Cash out anytime your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Now, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's legit. People are getting paid to commute. You can too. So don't wait. Download the free Upside app now. Use promo code BILL to claim your bonus. That's promo code BILL. Offers vary by user and location. Visit upside.com for terms and conditions.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Now, the O'Reilly update brings you something you might not know. 2 years ago today, actor Matthew Perry found dead in his LA home. The coroner saying he died from drowning and extreme levels of a powerful sedative called ketamine. Here is the story. Born in 1969, Massachusetts, the young actor made guest appearances on sitcoms, soap operas, then Beverly Hills 90210. At the age of 24, he landed the role of Chandler Bing on the NBC program Friends. The show became a sensation. For the next 10 years, Perry is one of the highest paid celebrities in America, earning $1 million an episode for Friends. But fame apparently took its toll. Perry struggled with severe addictions to alcohol, narcotics, and prescription drugs. On October 28, 2023, the actor ingested a massive dose of sedatives, went into his hot tub, lost consciousness, then drowned. 5 people, including a drug dealer, 2 doctors, pleaded guilty in connection with his death. All will be sentenced later this year. And here's something else you might not know. Matthew Perry's death is not unusual. Many celebrities have fallen victim to accidental overdoses. Actor Heath Ledger perished in his sleep after ingesting 6 different prescription opioids. Singer Whitney Houston drowned in her bathtub while abusing cocaine. British songwriter Amy Winehouse drank herself to death. Musician Prince died from fentanyl poisoning, the same drug that killed guitarist Tom Petty in 2018. Similar fates have befallen Michael Jackson, Chris Farley, Elvis Presley, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. The list is almost never ending. Today, 17% of Americans over the age of 12 are addicted to drugs or alcohol. That is 48 million people. That statistic has doubled since Ronald Reagan began the war on drugs in 1982. Back in a moment. Ready for flu season or not? Too many families wait until they're sick and then rush to urgent care. Don't make that mistake. Be proactive and start preparing now. Go to All Family Pharmacy. They are different from the big chains. They don't push flu shots as the only answer. Instead, they believe in medical freedom, giving you access to options. More than 200 medications available, from daily prescriptions to advanced biohacking products. And every order includes a doctor's prescription, no insurance required. So stock up today on Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, even flu kits and vitamins for immune support. Orders ship fast, overnight shipping available if you need it right away. Please visit All Family Pharmacy, one word, allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. Don't wait. Get ahead of the flu season. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the U.S. has carried out more strikes against suspected drug-running boats, killing at least 14.
In an announcement on social media, Hegseth posted videos of the strikes. 2 boats can be seen moving at speed through the water. One contains a large amount of parcels or bundles. Both then suddenly explode and are seen aflame. Another strike appears to have been conducted on a pair of boats that were stationary in the water alongside each other. Hegseth says U.S. intelligence indicates the 4 boats were known for carrying narcotics. This is the first time multiple strikes were announced in a single day. Mike Hemp in Washington.
An online retailing giant is slashing a bunch of jobs.
Amazon is cutting roughly 14,000 corporate positions as it spends more on artificial intelligence. An Amazon spokesman says it's a matter of reducing bureaucracy, removing layers, and shifting resources to ensure we're investing in our biggest bets and what matters most to our customers' current and future needs. Amazon has committed about $10 billion apiece to AI-related data center projects in Mississippi, Indiana, Ohio, and North Carolina. Rich Thomason reporting.
Hurricane Melissa has hit southwestern Jamaica as a catastrophic Category 5 storm, causing heavy flooding and wind damage. Melissa made landfall Tuesday in southwestern Jamaica with maximum sustained winds of 185 miles an hour. Officials warned of devastating damage and urged residents to seek shelter as the hurricane crossed the island. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 161 points, the Nasdaq rose 190, the S&P advanced 15. More at townhall.com.
If you have an IRA or 401k, then this message is definitely one you need to hear. The price of 1 troy ounce of silver has more than doubled in the past 24 months, and silver is poised for huge gains in the near term. That's why when you call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD, you'll be positioned for the next wave of dramatic growth in precious metals. The devaluation of the U.S. dollar and the volatility of the stock market all play a part in why silver continues to be a safe haven location for your assets, and why why precious metals continue to dominate in an uncertain financial climate. Learn more when you call 800-741-GOLD. We'll send you a free precious metals guide, plus a copy of former IMF Chairman Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. The time is now for you to consider silver to protect your retirement. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-4653 right now. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A soaking rain is on the way. Starts off as some scattered showers this evening, but turns more widespread. So we have a steady rain tonight with a low down to 48. Kind of a raw, nasty morning commute with wet weather, probably some ponding on the roads, gusty winds, and that chilly low in the 40s. It's not going to warm up much. A high of 53. Showers all morning, even into the early afternoon, although they are lightening up. And by mid to late afternoon, the rain's tapering off. Wednesday's going to be a chilly one with a high of 53 degrees. Mostly sunny, though, Thursday and a dry day with a low of 42 and a high of 58. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
I think you're a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
101.9 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth. And here, News Talk STL.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win election.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And we had a phenomenal day here in Japan with a momentous trade deal. We made a big, beautiful trade deal for both countries. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, I think Japan also had their best stock market day ever. So your new prime minister is doing very well. First female, first woman prime minister. And I said, you already hit the highest stock price you've ever hit. So she's very happy. And we spent the whole day together. It was beautiful. And she's
the Godzilla of American politics, bigfooting all across Asia, having a spectacular visit in Japan as the stock market indices back here on the homeland reach another round of record highs. We'll talk about that and lots more on a very busy Tuesday here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. It is October the 28th, 2025. It's 4:07 in the p.m., and it looks like it's about to become midnight outside. If this is not a dreary day in the heartland, I don't know what is. Chris Arps, your favorite kind of weather?
Like worst kind of weather. What makes it even more depressing is Sunday. The clocks get rolled back, so it's going to be like pitch black when we leave out of here. I'm going to have to break out the sun lamp that I use every winter.
Yes, you will.
to keep me from going into a deep funk. But big news there. You hear the president. He has a lot of affinity for the new female prime minister. She is a protege of the late Prime Minister Abe. And reports say that Abe and Trump were very good friends. When President Trump came to Japan today, she gifted him with a golf club of the former prime minister. So they are very close. She's also, people call her kind of a Trump type candidate. She's very conservative. She wants closer ties with the United States, especially when it comes to the military. And also this trade deal they're talking about, $550 billion that they're going to invest in the United States. That is a pretty good foreign trip so far.
Indeed. And yes, as you mentioned, Donald Trump absolutely showing something he often doesn't, and that was a softer side of himself today. Apparently, he became a bit emotional when the new prime minister presented him with that very special putter. He said, was this ceremonial, or did he actually use this? And the new prime minister said, no, Prime Minister Abe actually used this putter. And Donald Trump remarked he was a wonderful, wonderful man. They were indeed very close. So the president becoming a little emotional there and developing a very close attachment right off the bat to this new prime minister, who many say is very Reagan-esque, very Trumpian in her own right, as she is being already called the Iron Lady of Asia.
Yeah, and as I mentioned yesterday during the end of the show, she has ties here to the United States. She was a congressional aide to the former Congresswoman Pat Schroeder from Colorado. So she understands the American system. She understands the politics. And I think we're going to see a much closer relationship between the United States and Japan. It's already a close relationship, but I think it's going to be even closer now. And the more important part is militarily, especially with China trying to be the big dog there in that neighborhood.
This can absolutely be an excellent economic and military partnership, and Japan can help us keep an eye on communist China, who they have no love lost for. And that doesn't just go back a few hundred years. That goes back millennium.
And one of the big things that have been talked about this trade deal is Japan, which we know has been notorious for not accepting a lot of American automobiles. They are going to allow a big shipment of Ford F-150s. And those of you that watch NFL, watch football regularly every year, you know that the F-150 is the best-selling pickup truck, I think, since like 1975. They have the record for that. So that's a huge deal to have the F-150, America's most popular truck, now going to be roaming the streets of Japan.
That's fantastic. The F-150 is a great workhorse. I've driven many of them in my life. It was also the favorite pickup truck of the late, great Sam Walton of Walmart fame. I saw his last F-150 he ever drove in the Walmart Museum last week in Bentonville, Arkansas. Yes, there is a Walmart museum. It is it's inside. Basically, it was the second store that Sam Walton and his wife ever owned was the Walton 5 and 10 on the main square in Bentonville. I'd never been there before. It looks like a Norman Rockwell painting. That whole square down in Bentonville, Arkansas is beautiful. And you walk inside, and the front is still got the facade of the old store. There's a mock-up. Well, I don't think it's a mock-up. I think it's it's Sam Walton's old office, and it's frozen in time in like the mid-'80s. And then around the corner, there's a lot of Walmart displays and things. And then his actual F-150 pickup is sitting right there in the front window.
Yeah, just a testament to entrepreneurship and hard work is Sam Walton. Now his heirs, I think about 7 or 8 of them are on the Forbes billionaire list. So he's created a lot of wealth, particularly for his family, but also for his shareholders, for his employees, and for the nation. You know, similar story, Tyson Foods, which is also based in Arkansas. They've done the exact same thing. I think the founder was killed tragically in a car accident or some type of accident, and they have frozen his office the way that it was like from the 1960s of when he passed. So I guess that's a tradition in Arkansas for business titans. You just freeze their office to how it was before they passed on to the great beyond.
Pretty cool piece of nostalgia and American history as well.
Did you go in there and say, hey, Stan Kroenke, look what he did to the Rams. He took our team to LA, or you didn't bring that personal aspect of it?
Kroenke somehow wormed his way into the great Walton family. And I think I would consider that sort of a dark moment in their history.
He's smart enough to marry one of the Walton
He
girls,
was. Many of us wish it had never happened. That's how he got access to lots of capital. Speaking of money, the Rockwood School District is asking for a ton more. I just wanted to remind folks of this. Many of you have no voting to do next week, as you should. It's in Missouri. It's an off year, right? It's 2025. We don't have elections in off years, except for the tax collectors. And I can't believe they're doing this. It's so cynical. It's so wrong. Chris, what's the thing we've been talking about for the last year or so? How property taxes, personal property taxes, income taxes need to be reformed and reduced in this state. Here comes the Rockwood School District. They are proposing a massive tax increase. And instead of waiting for next April's election, which that's where you expect to see this, and I don't like April elections either, but that wasn't even good enough for them. They have spent tens of thousands of dollars to put a sole ballot question on the ballot of Rockwood School District voters next Tuesday. David Stokes and I talked about this last week. He was just as infuriated about it as I was, and he doesn't even live in the Rockwood School District. I do. And they're asking voters whether they should have their taxes increased in the middle of this economic climate where we're still climbing out of the Biden years and still trying to deal with all that inflationary pressure. We've been talking about how property tax reform is going to be top of the ticket next year in the legislature. And here comes a major school district in Missouri and is asking citizens and voters to pay more.
All right, let me ask this because you live in the Rockwood School District. Dave Stokes probably knows this information as well. What are they asking for? Is this for teacher pay? Is this to upgrade facilities? Does Rockwood High School need a new field or a new gym? What exactly are they asking this money for? Or is it just, hey, we want more money and we think we can get it by putting it on an off-year election?
I think they're claiming it's for teacher pay.
Okay.
Here's the problem. State Rep Ben Keithley and others have done a deep dive into Rockwood School District's finances going back 10 years. And you know what they've discovered? In the last 10 years, Rockwood has lost student population by over 2,000 students. They have 2,000 fewer students in the district today than they did 10 years ago. Have they talked about consolidating schools? Have they talked about reducing the size and scope of their physical plan? How about this, Chris? Have they talked about reducing the amount of bureaucrats and administrators? When I was going to school, and I went to private schools, but I had plenty of friends who were in public schools. My kids went to public schools. What is the deal with the vice principals and the associate principals and the deputy thises and the that's? There's so much bureaucracy. It's unbelievable. We're talking about a 12 to 20% increase on everybody's property taxes beginning in 2026.
And those administrator salaries are not cheap. I mean, the superintendent of a major school district makes about $250,000-$300,000 a year. I'm sure those just underneath him make great salaries as well.
I got some more.
If you want to ask for money, I think the superintendent should say, hey, I'm willing to take a 10 or 15% cut off my pay if they're going to issue one taxes raised.
Here's some more factoids for you in light of this tax increase. In the last 12 years, so since 2014, revenues for the Rockwood School District are up $92 million. So they've had a $92 million increase in revenues. Administrative load has increased by over 30%. So they've added 30% to their administrative overhead. And all of that has happened with a 2,500 student population decline.
Where are those students going? Because Rockwood School District is in a part of St. Louis County that is growing. Where are those students going? Are they going to private school? And that surprises me because the school district is a good school district. Where do you think these students have gone?
St. Louis County population has actually declined over the last 10 years. St. Louis County population has slipped below 1 million and is now closer to 900,000. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
St. Charles, Franklin, Jefferson have all grown. St. Louis County has not experienced the decrease of St. Louis City. St. Louis City's decrease has been dramatic. St. Louis County's population has actually slightly ticked downward.
Did not know that.
And so you spread that out over the districts. And here's a perfect example of that. Rockwood School District, which you think would be I mean, Rockwood is West St. Louis County. That is one of the more affluent, more populated parts of St. Louis County, but not even it is keeping up with population increases that we are seeing around the rest of the country. So you have a top-heavy administration. You have more than 2,500 fewer students being served, and yet they're asking for more money from the remaining taxpayers and citizens.
And that's for teacher salaries.
They claim it's for teacher salaries. But if you look at the salaries in the neighboring school districts, Rockwood is absolutely and completely already currently competitive with Lindbergh. Lindbergh is probably our closest comparison because Rockwood borders Lindbergh on the east-west border. And Lindbergh students are paid nearly identical to what they're being paid in Rockwood. So that's what's going on there. And so there is a groundswell. I don't know if it'll be successful or not because this is David versus Goliath. The school district has unlimited resources. And let me tell you, Chris, I've gotten lots of glossy pamphlets in my mailbox that are disguised as it's the monthly Rockwood School District update, but nearly the entire thing was taken up with explaining why they needed more taxes.
What's the makeup of the school board in Rockwood? Is it conservative leaning, libs?
It's liberal. We had a couple conservatives on there briefly. They're both gone. So it's pretty much controlled by the NEA, by the teachers unions. So there you have it. We'll talk to David Stokes about that a little further and ask him I don't know if there's any other tax increases proposed in the area, but we'll ask David because next week isn't election day. It usually isn't, but now these taxing jurisdictions are using every opportunity to try to get one over on the Missouri taxpayer. We'll talk to him about that. In addition to apparently some use taxes. What the heck are those? We'll ask him about use taxes on the ballot this November and about a septic tank issue that a councilman has that could change St. Charles County building rules.
I have another thing that I'm going to ask David about, which I saw on the Postal Service's website as I was coming in. Apparently, Missouri Water is being bought by another company. So we'll see if Dave knows about that. We know Dave is very much in favor of privatizing some utilities.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That'll all be that'll be a jam-packed segment coming up next at 4:25 on all of the local and regional issues you need to know. We got Chris's Corner coming up at 4:45 today.
Yeah, KGP is on a book tour, Tim, and it's not doing very well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. And Washpo did a book review, and they savaged her. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get the latest on the Virginia, Maine, and California Senate races.
Did you see that she has a new hairstyle?
Yeah, and I try to tell everyone the hairstyle she had before. I was telling people that's a wig. That's not her hairstyle. That's a wig, and it looks like a mop.
Current one?
Yeah, I don't know.
It went from bad to worse.
It went bad to worse, and they were talking about how most of these press secretaries they've gone on to be like vice president of Uber and big major corporations. Jen Psaki has gotten a TV show on MSNBC. She has to go around hawking a terrible book, and it's not because of racism or colorism or because she is a lesbian. It's because she just wasn't very good at her job, period.
Indeed.
Doesn't have anything to do with any of the things that the left would say. She just was not very good at her job.
DEI hire, possibly. Speaker's stump speech at 5:07. If the new Socialist Party has their way, it will be New York City and America last. A little preview of the election up on the East Coast. 5:25. The prescription for what ails all of America and everyone at News Talk STL Nation. Dr. Randy Tobler will join us. Texas, the state, the Lone Star State, is suing Tylenol, the pain relief company, over autism connections. I also, Chris, saw that a letter was issued today from Senator Josh Hawley and others about yet another generic form of the over-the-counter abortion drug, mifepristone.
It's good to see Senator Hawley pursue some conservative initiatives.
Truly, indeed. Welcome back to the party. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. They got a story in the Post-Dispatch today, or wherever I read it, where he is putting out some legislation, pro-union legislation. So.
Becoming the people's populist, indeed. 5:45, Chris, I know you always have some interesting bits to help us wrap up the show.
Yeah, our good friend Senator Lindsey Graham had a Siri mishap at the Capitol today. I'll tell you what that's all about at 5:45.
Is this rated PG-13?
It is rated PG. Yes.
Okay, very good.
It's more embarrassing to him than anything ribald.
Well, when you're talking about Lindsey Graham, you never know.
Yeah, that's
true. So we'll just leave that right there. All right, and we'll get on with the program. Joey V in studio wearing the Blue Note today.
All right.
Joey, they're off to a bit of a struggling start, the Blues are. Hopefully they can turn it around quickly here early in the season.
I'll be their good luck charm. Yeah, thank you.
You going tonight?
I'm not going tonight.
Oh.
I'm going to a movie screening tonight. But I just like the trash talk that comes out of sales guy Ethan's mouth whenever I wear something that's not Blue Jays right now. That's all he cares about. It's these dang Canadians.
What is he, a fan of the Canucks?
He's a big Canadian head. He's even got Toronto Blue Jays belts and underwear that he shows
What is
us.
wrong with
Don't even
him?
ask him to show us that stuff.
He's the second person in a week that I know loves the Toronto Blue Jays. When I was in Columbia, Tony Lupo, the great meteorologist up at Mizzou, he was wearing Blue Jays hats and gear, and he loves the Blue Jays. So
there's some kind of St. Louis Toronto connection I'm not aware of. Who knows? All right.
It's sick is what it is.
When we come back, we'll talk to David Stokes about all things local, regional, and perhaps even statewide on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show as we approach, there's an election next week in big parts of the land. We'll break it all down at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A soaking rain is on the way. Starts off as some scattered showers this evening, but turns more widespread. So we have a steady rain tonight with a low down to 48. Kind of a raw and nasty morning commute with wet weather, probably some ponding on the roads, gusty winds, and that chilly low in the 40s. It's not going to warm up much. A high of 53. Showers all morning, even into the early afternoon, although they are lightening up. And by mid to late afternoon, the rain's tapering off. Wednesday's going to be a chilly one with a high of 53 degrees. Mostly sunny, though, Thursday and a dry day with a low of 42 and a high of 58. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
Winter is on the way, and this would be a great thing to put on your list. That is sparkling windows. I'm going to give you a personal recommendation. My wife and I, we recently had our windows cleaned by STL Windows and Doors, new window cleaning service, and the results were incredible. It's not your average spray and wipe job. They use triple filtered, ultra pure water that's so clean you couldn't even drink it. Why? Because it pulls out minerals that normally cause streaks and spots. The result? Crystal clear windows, guaranteed streak free. Why not get your windows clean before this winter smudge and dirt gets on them? They handle both residential and commercial jobs up to 2 stories. For an average home, the team takes about 4 to 6 hours, and they just don't clean the glass. They also clean and inspect your screens, and they'll even rescreen if needed. You can even get on a regular schedule. Most homeowners do twice a year to keep their windows looking brand new. And of course, STL Windows and Doors is still the trusted family-owned company for new window and door installations here in the St. Louis metro area. Call for your free estimate today at 314-277-5952 or visit stlwindowsanddoors.com. That's stlwindowsanddoors.com. STL Windows and Doors, the preferred choice for insulation and window cleaning in St. Louis.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris. How are you, Vic? I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need to understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Larry Connors here, welcoming Tom Shaw Realtors. Nearly 100 years helping folks buy, sell acreage, homes, horse property. Call Tom, 636-432-1922. 432-1922. This is Larry Connors, and my favorite sandwich at Capriati's is a Philly cheesesteak with peppers. Sweet peppers, but sometimes hot peppers. I love Capriati's, and so will you.
Open 9 to 9 daily on Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Just as I thought it was going all right, I found out I'm wrong and I thought it was right. It's always the same, it's just a shame, that's all.
For thousands of Missourians, the mailbox has also become the ballot box. But with USPS making several policy changes, your ballot may not get from point A to point B as quickly as it used to. USPS recently changed priority mail from 1-day guarantee to a 3-day guarantee. In addition, 540 Missouri zip codes are experiencing a reduction in postal service.
If you have your ballot now and you haven't sent it back to us, get it in the mail as quickly as possible.
Boone County Election Clerk Brianna Lennon reminds voters their ballots must be physically at their county's office by 7 p.m. Election Day.
428 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. Not to be critical or anything, Tim, but doesn't the mail usually take about 3 days, or it used to get from one place to another?
At least.
And now that's a guarantee now, I guess.
It's a guarantee?
Yeah.
See, the presumption in the law, there literally was a presumption in law. As an attorney, if you mailed something, it was considered delivered 3 days later unless proven otherwise. I don't know, Chris, that rule is good anymore, because I know of people that mail things and they get them 7 to 10 days later if they're lucky.
My wife and I, we mailed out our wedding invitations, and we were getting them back. People were getting them in like December. We were married in October. So that shows you right there. One guy who is never late, he's always on time. It's David Stokes.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute. In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spike. It was
I knew there's a spike somewhere in that stuff.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. Welcome to the show, sir.
It's great to be on. I don't think we were scheduled to talk about the post office, but hey, privatize the post office.
Amen.
I think we talked about this in depth just a month or so ago. Yeah, it's absolutely time to, as I know I said on this very show, either privatize the post office or at a bare minimum allow private delivery companies to deliver things to mailboxes to open it up to competition. But I say go full bore and sell the whole thing off to the highest bidder.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, David, because I was going to ask you later about a story that I read in the Post-Grease today that I don't know if you're aware of. We talked about this before your segment. We know that you are a big proponent of privatization of utilities, and Missouri Water is being sold to another private company. What do you know about that, and is that a good thing?
Well, I don't know much about it other than I did see a headline. I didn't know if it was a merger or a sale. It sounds like, as you described it, that Missouri American is the smaller of the two involved companies. So I guess it would be sold to a different utility company. So that's fine with me. I mean, it's obviously fine with me is I'm sure the same rules, regulations, service agreements, and all that stuff will apply to the company that just either merged with or bought with or got bought by, whatever the best description is, Missouri American. So yeah, that company provides the large majority of the water to the people in your at least your radio listening audience. So it'll certainly affect a lot of the people here, but I think that effect will be very, very small.
Mm-hmm. David, why is it in general that privatization of certain services is provided better by private companies than by governmental entities? I think many people would think, well, wait a minute, aren't basic services like roads, bridges, basic utilities, isn't that something government should do? Or is it better off to either have public-private partnerships or full-out privatization?
Well, it depends on the service being discussed here. Of course, there are services that government should do itself. Police being the top of the line of something that should never be privatized or outsourced. I mean, you never want to take the power to arrest and detain and imprison and put that to anybody but the government itself, who is responsible to voters, not there. And there's certain other things like, just standard general city parks and city roads are generally going to be best maintained and operated by local governments. And there's plenty of other examples. But on the other side, there are many, many examples of things that should be privatized. Things of utility, and at the local level, the top of that list is utilities. And the way, Tim, you live in Eureka, and Eureka was the last city in St. Louis County to operate its own water and sewer system. And they sold that off to Missouri American Water just a couple of years ago for millions and millions of dollars. Private companies are just better. They're much better able to adapt to technology. They change as rules change and technology changes. The profit motive of a private company, even when heavily regulated like a utility, that motive is still what drives efficiency. And that efficiency is what drives low cost, quality services, and all that. Too often you lack that in government. I think it's, you just don't have that same drive for efficiency when you're spending other people's money, and when your customers are captured. They can't, in most cases, they can't go to another government. They can move, and people do move. Look at all the people who've left the city of St. Louis in recent decades. But those are just the basic reasons. And yes, at showmeinstitute.org, we have numerous papers up on privatization in Missouri that goes into more depth on these questions.
David, speaking of privatization, on Sunday on Hancock and Kelly, we talked about the mayor of St. Louis's new plan to make sure that there will be snow removal this winter when it snows. And I suggested that snow removal should be privatized. One of the reasons former Mayor Tashara Jones said that the streets weren't plowed is because they didn't have enough drivers. Should snow removal be something that is privatized along with possibly trash collection as well?
Absolutely. And in the case of snow removal, look, as long as you have the municipal trash department, I think they should privatize the entire thing, like many, many cities and counties in the region do. But if you've got that municipal trash, then of course you're going to want to use that for snow removal too. But you should absolutely augment that snow removal service with private contractors. That's one example of something where you can do both. Ambulance service, for example, is an area where the city of St. Louis and many local governments do both, meaning that their primary ambulance will be their own fire department or ambulance service. But if those trucks are in use in a busy time period, they often use private contractors as the backup there. So that's just one example. And yes, with a big snowfall, there's no reason that you shouldn't go to the private snow plowing companies, of which there are many. Many of them work commercial lots primarily, and use them as a backup system or a side system with the city's own trash trucks and snow plows.
Speaking of David Stokes of the Show Me Institute, David, we went on a little bit of a rant and a rampage last Tuesday, I think rightfully so, about the fact that there are a multitude of tax proposals and increase questions on the ballot next week, specifically in my home school district of Rockwood. I mean, David, I have to wonder, have all of these taxing jurisdictions either not been paying attention or do they not care about what is largely the conversation in Missouri over the last several years? I mean, for goodness sakes, property tax reform was a huge debate in the June special session. The Speaker of the House actually has created an interim property tax reform committee that's been holding public hearings all over the state this fall and these last few months. And here comes the Rockwood School District, completely tone deaf and urging a massive tax increase and cynically hoping that nobody's looking other than their favorite tax increasers, and that putting it on next Tuesday's ballot. David, tell us about that and some other proposals that might be on people's ballots as well.
Well, the Rockwood School one is interesting. I do think it's tone deaf, to quote you. It's always a smart play to get invited back when you quote the host. But seriously, look, I testified before those property tax committees you're talking. I testified multiple times this summer before various interim committees and the special session and the like. And the best thing I could say, trying to look at both sides of it, which I do try to do as best I can. I think Rockwood is probably trying to get ahead of the massive property tax changes that they fear coming down the pike. First of all, the senior property tax freeze, which won't have a large impact immediately, but over time will. And then you have these other counties like Jefferson County, which Rockwood is partly in, which has now capped property tax increases from assessment at 0, which I think is going too far. So that's to give them all the benefit of the doubt. That's probably what they're trying to do. All that said, I still don't think it justifies it at all. I know there are school districts, I don't know if Rockwood is involved itself, suing to overturn some of these property tax changes, which I think some of these changes went way too far. And I know we've talked about this in depth on prior appearances, but all of it comes down to what people are voting on next week, which is over a 40-cent increase in the property tax rate, which for $1 million house, and there's nothing unusual about a house worth $1 million in Rockwood School District, that's like it's about between $800 and $900 in a tax increase. That's a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how people vote on it. And yes, I do question having it on in November. And they probably did it to beat the Jefferson County changes for that part of the school district, because that's only a fairly small part of the school district. And St. Louis County, as you know, was unaffected for better or worse by this last round of property tax changes. So I'm probably rambling a bit here. I think Rockwood is asking for too much at the wrong time. Even if I give them all the benefit of the doubt and why they're doing it, I still don't think such a large tax increase is justified.
David, I have to ask you about this story in the Post-Dispatch about 800 wetland acres to become a new park in the city of St. Charles. I know in a previous life, you were the director of the Great Rivers Habitat Alliance. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's exciting. I think it's, I was at Great Rivers Habitat Alliance for a couple of years, and now as they move, they've purchased a former duck club in St. Charles County up there, and it's being turned over to the county to operate as a park. And I think it's wonderful. It's just going to be preserved as wetlands, a place for flooding when that's necessary, and a beautiful area to walk, hike, and for nature. So I think it's really exciting. Good for Great Rivers Habitat Alliance to get it done, and good for St. Charles County to accept it and take over managing it.
800 acres make a great subdivision, though, wouldn't it?
Yes, not in this floodplain. That's the last. You want to talk about something that'll be expensive? Rescuing those people from the next flood. So I think this is the right move. We can put the new subdivisions out in West St. Charles County where it doesn't flood nearly as much.
Indeed. David, we have a story here as well that once again exemplifies the importance of every single person exercising their right to vote. Now, this was in a legislative body where you have generally tighter votes, but this kind of lends itself to proving that point. David, tell us about the Cortex eminent domain proposal that failed by a single vote at the St. Louis City Board of Aldermen level.
This is great news. Cortex, which is the large, the scientific research company, nonprofit that's done a lot of amazing development in the Midtown and Central West End of St. Louis. I've got nothing against Cortex overall, but their tax status and their eminent domain authority was being renewed by ordinance. And in particular, the eminent domain aspect was up for a vote. And I do think it's terrible that a private organization like Cortex had been given the authority to enact eminent domain by the city of St. Louis. So I'm delighted to see that its renewal was killed and not approved. Now, the Post-Dispatch story thinks it sort of insinuates that there was some political payback to the alderman who had sponsored it. I look, I'm not a political consultant. I don't know if that's true or not. The story also insinuates that it'll be brought back up eventually, and Cortex will get that eminent domain ability. I hope that doesn't happen. The Cortex and the story is very clear that there is a building owned by it's a temporary storage facility that they're looking at eventually purchasing, and they want that eminent domain authority in case that company doesn't want to sell. I think it's just terrible that you would give a private company like this, a private entity, eminent domain authority to just take another business because it, in this case Cortex, wants to expand. They should have no ability to force the sale of this storage facility down there along the Forest Park Parkway. I think if they want to buy it, they should buy it for a fair market value. And if the owner of the storage facility doesn't want to sell, they are a tax-paying company right now that has employees and pays taxes. Nobody should force them to sell, even no matter what Cortex hopes to do with that property. So I hope that this is a big step. It's a great step. There's no justification for the use of eminent domain in this case, and I certainly hope that it doesn't change. I hope it isn't granted eventually, and it's definitely something I look to follow.
David, before we let you go, does Show Me Institute have any big events coming up you would like to promote?
We do not. Not that I know of, at least. We've had a whole lot of events recently, and but I don't know of anything in the St. Louis area soon. And if I'm wrong and I'm failing to promote something, I'm going to get a nasty email from our communications director. But your listeners should always visit showmeinstitute.org, including the events page there, where you can sign up to get notified of upcoming events, and that's the best way to stay informed.
That's David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. Showmeinstitute.org, and on X, David C. Stokes. But before I let you go, do you still like horses?
I love horses, and I would love to go horseback riding around those 800 acres of wetlands.
There you go.
In St. Charles.
David, have a great day, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Always great talking with you.
All right. 444, Chris's Corner. We're going to talk about KJP's book tour. It's not going very well. We'll give you the latest on these races in Virginia, Maine, and the redistricting effort in California. Listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
I love you more than I wanted to. There's no point in trying to pretend.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A soaking rain is on the way. Starts off as some scattered showers this evening, but turns more widespread. So we have a steady rain tonight with a low down to 48. Kind of a raw, nasty morning commute with wet weather, probably some ponding on the roads, gusty winds, and that chilly low in the 40s. It's not going to warm up much. A high of 53. Showers all morning, even into the early afternoon, although they are lightening up. And by mid to late afternoon, the rain's tapering off. Wednesday's going to be a chilly one with a high of 53 degrees. Mostly sunny, though, Thursday, and a dry day with a low 42 and a high of 58. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
All right, let me tell you all about the Wallners. The Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway, and of course includes Rodney and Jen Wallner. You can reach them today at 314-810-SOLD. It also includes our own Jamie Allman. Jamie teaming up with the Wallners, helping to make this a terrific trio indeed. Reach out to them today. This is home selling and buying season. Folks get really busy in this industry. Trust me, I have been watching the real estate business because I live in a big, giant subdivision and drive past a lot of those signs, and I see a ton of them during the fall, during these months, because people want to get this done and out of the way and wrapped up before the holidays. So I would not delay if you are even thinking about selling a home. And if you're ready to buy a home, the Wallners can help you with that as well when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. flexible commission plan. That'll be offered to you. They have so many approved home buyers. They're going to guarantee to obtain you an offer. Yep, they're a husband and wife team. They're fantastic. The Wallners are wonderful people. And you know why? They've been with us since the very beginning. And so we've gotten to know them really well over the last 4+ years. They're wonderful people. They're great parents. They're great members of the community. They give tons of their time and their treasure to some really, really important charities, supporting first responders, supporting foster kids, and so much more. And they know this area. This is not a fly-by-night, we kind of do this on the weekend when we feel like it kind of operation. This is what the Wallners have dedicated their careers to, in becoming experts in the real estate industry in and around Missouri and Illinois. Yeah, did I mention that? They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois. They can help you out on both sides of the river when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. Why would you call anyone else, people? You shouldn't. There's also no obligation to ever continue with the Wallners. They basically have a free walk-away plan, and you come back then whenever you're ready to rock and roll. Call the Wallners today. You'll get a free listing consultation, and you will sell your home with this top-producing real estate team of Rodney and Jen Wallner, now featuring also Jamie Ullman. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
Hey, Mike Ferguson here, and for nearly 40 years, Nutrition Stop has been St. Peter's trusted source for natural living. They've got a great, knowledgeable staff offering more than just products. They provide guidance on your wellness journey with exceptional service, from 100% grass-fed meats like elk and bison and local produce to quality supplements and clean household products. 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peter's, just off the interstate at Cave Springs and Highway 70.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
One member of the White House who might know thinks the shutdown will end by the end of this week. Do you agree?
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Would be president. Biden wasn't up to the task of the proverbial 2 a.m. phone call. George Clooney said Biden didn't even recognize him. Do you think that he is capable right now of being president? Because that was what you were advocating for, someone who would be president in his current state until 2029.
I did not see anything that concerned me when he decided to run for president. I did not. This is someone that I saw every single day. Again, he was on top of the policies. He was sharp.
450 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. You heard a little mishap there with that clip coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know Joey V, he does not like to have any mishaps. He likes a flawless show. But Joe, I got to tell you, I'm glad you found that clip, but I decided during the break, I'm going to call an audible and not talk about what I said we were going to talk about. We are live and local. That's our thing. I want to talk about the St. Charles County executive race that was announced today.
Are you calling me Sleepy Joe?
I'm not calling you Sleepy Joe.
Okay. I made a mistake and the insults come out.
I'm going to read first a couple of statements today. This was from County Executive Steve Ellman. He said this on the Sorrel station downtown. That's how I'll describe them. He said, quote, I have a great county council that works with me. I've got the right people in place now in Washington, D.C., in Jefferson City, and at East-West Gateway. Jason Law, who was running, he said about this development, my opponents have run in more than 30 elections, so it's no surprise they want to keep campaigning instead of filling out a job application. I'll keep working to cut taxes, protect our streets, and deliver actual strong conservative leadership that creates real opportunities for our communities. That's from Jason Law. And this is from former State Senator Bill Eigel. He said St. Charles County needs bold conservative leadership to prevent the economic stagnation that has become standard with Steve Ellman in recent years. Property taxes have never been higher in St. Charles County. Soulless apartment complexes are turning St. Charles into St. Louis City 2.0, and corporations are vying for natural resources for their data centers and getting rich off city-driven special tax abatements at the expense of the people. All the while, Steve Elman has been sleeping, literally sleeping. Steve promised he would retire and let a new generation of energetic conservative leadership guide our county after he has held that office for more than 20 years. I intend to hold Steve to his commitment on retirement. All right, so those are the statements of Steve Elman's competitors in the race. Tim, are you shocked that County Executive Elman has changed his mind after saying after 20 years he's hanging it up and decided to remain in office? And what do you think are his chances? He doesn't have very much money in the bank, but he does have name recognition, which counts for a lot of money. Your overall thoughts, Mr. Speaker?
Well, he's becoming the Nancy Pelosi of St. Charles County. Steve Elman will be 75
I didn't know he was
years
that old.
in December. He was born in 1950.
Okay.
He'll be 75 years old
That's
this
easy
December.
math.
It is. It was. I did it. I'm not, Chris, I admit my faults.
Right.
Often, and I am not a numbers guy.
Me
Just
neither.
ask my wife. I can't remember a damn thing dealing with numbers. I can remember words really well, though. Steve is in his 5th term. I mean, aren't we the party that always says, hey, now look, I'm not a term limits guy. I do believe that voters get the representation that they deserve, that they voted for. On the other hand, I also believe very much in what our founding fathers viewed as public service. It's wonderful to serve. I am blessed that I was able to serve 3 terms on the city council, 4 terms in the state house. And then it's good to go back into private life, like what John Adams did.
Right.
John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, all the founding fathers. George Washington said, we shall not have a king in this nation. They would have elected Washington till the day he died, right? He did his 2 terms. That's kind of where we got the whole 2-term thing for president. And so I think you need to know at what point do you hang it up and move on. I don't know what Steve Elman's afraid of. Why does he not think that either Bill Eigel or Jason Law are worthy enough to pick up the mantle and carry forward? St. Charles is a growing community. Steve has done some great work in the past, but I think it's time to turn it over to the next generation below him.
And a little inside baseball, we were kind of speculating about this before the show began. I think, and I said this on Hancock and Kelly, helped keep bringing that up, but I think that some folks came to County Executive Elman and said that the 2 gentlemen that are in the race now are going to split the vote, and that may allow Senator Bill Eigel to become the next county executive. And I think some people that are aligned with him said, you have to stay in this race because they don't believe Senator Eigel would be a good county executive or the right fit. And so I think he is doing this. I think he probably did want to retire. 4 terms is a lot. That's a very stressful job. But I think people have basically came to him and said, we need you to stay in to quote unquote save the county.
I don't know what that means, though. I don't think either Jason Law or Bill Eigel, who are, I think, both nearly lifelong St. Charles Countyans. I know Jason Law is the mayor of Lake St. Louis. I believe he's lived there a long time. As long as I've known Bill Eigel, which is now well over a decade, he's been a St. Charles County resident. I don't know Jason as well as I know Bill, but from what I've heard about both of them, they both love their county. They want their county to do better. So I don't know what that means. And why is Steve Elman supposed to be the savior of St. Charles County? I just don't get that. And for people who want to discount either Law or Bill, Law has proven himself to be a prolific fundraiser, especially from the law enforcement world. And I want to point this out as well. Bill Eigel won St. Charles County in the gubernatorial race. He beat both Mike Kehoe and Jay Ashcroft. So I wouldn't underestimate Bill as far as his name ID in his home county. He was state senator there twice. And Bill, it wasn't a cakewalk for Bill. It wasn't just because, he's in a conservative county. He had spirited primaries both times around by well-funded opponents, and he won by double digits.
I don't think you would necessarily put County Executive Steve Elman in the MAGA camp. I think he is a conservative, of course. That's what he says he is. I think this is a race between the MAGA camp and those who would say are the, what do you call them?
Establishment?
The establishment. Yeah. And I think it's a race that comes down to that. And I
think that's true.
And I expect there's probably going to be some pressure put on Mr. Law here in the coming weeks and months to step out of the race probably.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what he does because Jason, again, I don't know Jason Law. I've met him twice. He seems like a great guy. He's also a St. Louis County detective, I think. He's a colonel, maybe a colonel. He's very high up in St. Louis County. That's why law enforcement is like a big part of his campaign. I don't know that he's going to do that. He's an executive currently. He's the mayor of Lake St. Louis, a large municipality in St. Charles. So we'll see what happens there. And we'll see whether or not, look, name ID is huge. It's the first thing you have to have in any race. And we'll see if that kind of intrinsic, embedded decades of name ID is enough to give Steve Ehlmann a sixth term, or if voters believe this should be a change election and they want to vote for something new. And Chris, back to your argument about I agree with that. You see that on the county council, right? For folks who don't know, for St. Charlesians, you probably know what we're talking about. For people in the other state, you may not have any idea what we're talking about. There is definitely a divide on the county council on those issues as well.
A good friend of mine who was working on his campaign early asked me to go to one of his fundraisers, and I was like, no, I'm not going to touch that, because that's going to look like I'm supporting one or the other. So thank you, but no thank you. I will watch this from the sidelines. All right, 4:57. We've got Speaker Stump Speech and Dr. Randy Tobler coming up. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
I thought I'd die. Why all the reasons still it, baby? But you're back.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Now I can feel you. Now that I want you. Now I can touch you.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
KLGY HD3 Clay, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9 94.1 and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Isolated flight delays may spread as air traffic controllers go without pay during the government shutdown.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy was at LaGuardia Airport Tuesday pleading their case and making it clear that recent delays may only get worse.
On Sunday, 44% of the delays were because of staffing shortages. Yesterday, that number was 24%.
He says many are calling out sick, working second job. The FAA was already short on staff before the shutdown, but Duffy says the situation is making things worse for training new controllers and keeping seats filled. Julie Walker, New York.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is throwing cold water on the idea of a third Trump term. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
President Trump isn't ruling out a possible third term in the White House, saying he would love to do it. But House Speaker Johnson, who's a constitutional lawyer, said he doesn't see a path for a third presidential term. He said the country doesn't allow it, and amending the Constitution would take a decade and be too time-consuming. But that hasn't stopped the president from raising the possibility and selling hats that say Trump 2028. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the army to carry out powerful strikes in Gaza. This decision comes after an Israeli official reported that Hamas fired on Israeli forces in southern Gaza. Hamas has delayed handing over another hostage's body in response to Israel's planned strikes. On Monday, the Palestinian militant group handed over body parts that Israel identified as the remains of a hostage recovered earlier in the war, which Netanyahu called a violation of the ceasefire. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
Every day I speak with people who are worried and are feeling a lot of pressure because of credit card debt. That's why I'm very proud of what we do at Trinity. We just help. We give people the support they need, along with a real plan to become debt-free. Credit card bills are consolidated into a single monthly payment that is much less than what they were paying before. Most of our members end up saving thousands and even may improve their credit scores by as much as 200 points. I know from the bottom of my heart that I'm making a difference in the lives of the people we help. It just makes me really happy.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Julie, and I'm a Trinity counselor. Call me and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A soaking rain is on the way. Starts off as some scattered showers this evening, but turns more widespread. So we have a steady rain tonight with a low down to 48. Kind of a raw, nasty morning commute with wet weather, probably some ponding on the roads, gusty winds, and that chilly low in the 40s. It's not going to warm up much. A high of 53, showers all morning, even into the early afternoon, although they are lightening up. And by mid to late afternoon, the rain's tapering off. Wednesday's going to be a chilly one with a high of 53 degrees. Mostly sunny, though, Thursday and a dry day with a low 42 and a high of 58. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
You know what I did today? I made an appointment with my good friends out at Tyler Trineri. Yeah, taking the Jeep out there for a little, just a regular standard interval service maintenance kind of tune-up kind of thing that I do every 5,000 miles, as you should. And that's why my vehicle just takes a licking but keeps on ticking. Let me tell you, are you looking? So that's my vehicle. Are you looking for a new vehicle or a used vehicle? Are you looking for a great deal on a Chrysler, a Dodge, a Jeep, or a Ram? Then you need to check out Tyler Trineri, tylertrineri.com on the internets. Hey, I'm here to tell you what all of Tyler Trineri's customers already know. Every new vehicle, listen closely, every new vehicle sold by Tyler Trineri and select used ones come with the exclusive Tyler Trineri lifetime warranty. I said that correctly. A true stem-to-stern lifetime warranty with no limit on mileage or years owned. It's true. It's why everybody near, far, up, down, east, west, north, south comes from all over the Midwest region to shop at Tyler Trineri. And as I said earlier, they have a service department second to none. I should know. I've been visiting them for many, many years, long before they came to me and said, hey, we'd like to do some advertising with you on News Talk STL. I'm a loyal and I'm a very happy camper and customer. For the best price, selection, and that amazing lifetime warranty, I want you to check out Tyler Trineri in beautiful Pacific, Missouri today. They're literally right off Interstate 44. Really easy to get to from anywhere. TylerTrineri.com. That's TylerTrineri.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony shoulder. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Mr. Secretary, coffee prices are up 19% from a year ago. Beef is up almost 15% and bacon up almost 6%, just to name a few. So when are all grocery prices going to come down as President Trump promised?
Well, Kristen, it's unfortunate. As much as I like you, you like to cherry pick. So, when we came in, it was eggflation, eggflation, eggflation. Egg prices are down, gasoline prices are down. Overall, the inflation since President Trump has come in, has come down. Kristen, you don't get to cherry pick. Inflation is a composite number.
And it's largely down, cooler than expected, according to last week's report. That's why the stock market indices have been skyrocketing for the last 3 days, in addition to the Trump tariff announcements of a potential trade deal with communist China. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Chris, I heard Scott Bessent in that interview say cherry picking and improper premise of the question throughout the entire interview, because that's what Kristen Welker does.
And what she should focus on more out of all of those prices is gas prices, because fuel goes into everything that we buy. You have to transport things to the store. You have to use fuel to process goods. So if fuel prices are down at 3, 4, 5-year levels, and that means prices for a lot of other goods are going to be cheaper as well. But of course, she's not going to point that out.
Look, lefties are not going to be able to handle it. The emotional wrecking they're going to have when across the nation gas prices drop below $2 a gallon. That's something we haven't seen in forever. There are already gas stations, according to GasBuddy.com, in parts of Texas and Oklahoma that are below $2. When I went through Springfield, Missouri last week, gas was $2.34 for regular. And there's a lot of factors that go into it that we could discuss for hours. But Chris, that's an emotional thing that people see every day. Yeah. Every day people drive past, I don't know how many gas billboards. And when you see that constantly, you go, don't you always have that reaction? Oh, gas is really high today. Yeah. Oh, gas is going down today. Oh, wow, gas is closing in on $2 a gallon.
Yeah, and besides looking at the board with the numbers on them, I know it when I fill up. I'm like, wow, last week it cost me $35 to fill up my tank. This week it's $32.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, who knows, maybe even cheaper. So that's something that everybody, whether you're rich, poor, middle class, whatever, everyone buys fuel. That's something that you can see right away when gas prices go down.
And the media, the liberal national media, they're not going to be able to utilize their whataboutism when things like gas and grocery prices continue to drop. I mean, people are not feeling the inflationary pressures that they did over the last 4 years. We're not out of the woods yet, but the inflation report last Friday came in much lower than the experts were predicting. And if you look at Donald Trump's inflationary numbers for the first 10 months of his presidency, they're hovering around an average of 2.5%, whereas Biden's, by this point, we're closing in on double digits.
And the Democrats think that a winning issue for them in 2026 is going to be quote unquote affordability. We see that Kami Mandami is running on that in New York. We see other candidates that are running on that as well. Affordability. If gas prices and inflation continues to go down, that's going to be one of their major issues taken away from them. But the president and Republicans will have the issue of lower crime and also not having a lot of illegal aliens crossing into the border and trying to stop that crime. So good issues for Republicans coming up in 2026.
Yeah, it's so funny. The gaslighting that the liberals and the Democrats do to their own voters is really astounding, right? Because when you talk about affordability and when you talk about
a buzzword,
prices being too high, you know where that exists most often? in not even just urban areas, in any area which Democrats control. The areas that Democrats control in this country tend to be the highest price and the least affordable. So for all those people that are yelling and screaming, it's almost like you just want to hold a mirror up to their face and say, look, you're the problem.
Yeah, I just want to tell the Californians that are talking about affordability, look, you pay
It's an entire state.
Exactly. You pay $5 and $6 a gallon for gasoline because of your strict environmental standards and that you put on the oil company. So affordability has nothing to do with the president's policies. It's the people in Sacramento and in Albany and other capitals in blue states.
Yeah. California, in my humble opinion, as a non-economics, as somebody who doesn't hold an economics degree, but we've studied these issues for decades in public policy. California should be the most affordable place to live in the country. It has an overabundance of natural resources. It has a climate whereby you can be productive nearly year round, right? Like you can run your factories and your businesses. Like you don't really have a downtime. Here in the Midwest, man, a lot of businesses grind to a halt in January and February. Anybody who does any exterior work or like window cleaning companies or roofing and siding and gutters. In California, it's a 12-month work cycle. The reason, though, the entire state is so poor off is because of the massive taxation, regulation, the out-of-control litigation they have, and just the regulatory crush of the bureaucrats.
Yeah, and I talked about this on a Chris's Corner a few months back, that Chevron, which was based out in California, has moved to Texas because of all the environmental regulations that are put on them. Countless jobs have left because of that. Countless money to the California Treasury has left because of that, but they want to be green, so they're driving the jobs away.
Indeed. Speaker's stump speech, I'm going to focus a little bit more on that. Look in the mirror. New York City and America last if the Democrat socialists have their way, which it looks like they might, at least temporarily, in the once mighty Big Apple. At 5:25, we've got Dr. Randy Tobler on with us. Truly a busy bee, hosting Wake Up Missouri every day. He's out there in the mid-Missouri lands. If you're ever in mid-Missouri, you can tune Dr. Tobler in on 93.9 The Eagle. And, of course, you can hear him every single week at News Talk STL. He's on Saturday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. I love getting up on Saturday mornings, getting a cup of coffee, turning on my app, and there's the sweet tones of Dr. Randy Tobler and producer Jerome.
I always love listening to Dr. Tobler because he is a very, very wise man, and he's knowledgeable in so many subjects, and he's just an interesting guy. I would call him the most interesting man in the world.
He is. He's like that commercial.
Yeah.
We need to have him grow a beard.
Exactly.
And get an ascot.
Yep. Yeah. The most interesting man in the world.
My some of the guys I play golf with on the weekends, they drive out to Eureka from like Baldwin or Sunset Hills area, and they often listen to our station on the way out. And they always tell me, they'll always say, "Hey, I heard Dr. Tolbert talking about so and so." Or some mornings when I get up earlier, like they'll tell me if you or I had been on with Dr. Tobler, "Hey, just heard you," or "Just heard Chris on with Dr. Tobler." So yeah, it's a great thing to do. Folks, don't shut your radio off on Friday evenings and turn it back on again on Monday. Listen to us throughout the weekend. We have a ton of really great local programming heard throughout the weekend. Just go to newstalkstl.com. The entire weekend lineup is on there. It's not fluff, infomercial radio. It's real shows with real people. Many of us will make appearances on the weekends on some of these shows. And they're really great programming because that's what Jeff and Joe want to make sure that we have a 24/7, 7 days a week in station that brings you news, analysis, and opinion.
And our executive producer moonlights on Saturdays.
He does. He does the Right Mind Show with the great and sometimes wacky Todd Showalter.
Yeah, Todd and I have been having so much fun. Too much fun that we actually got banned from Sundays. There was a time where we were repeated on Sundays, and they said it's the Lord's Day. So.
You want us to talk to somebody about that?
Just say your prayer. Pray for me. That's all I want. Thoughts
talk
and
to
prayers.
somebody.
So Saturdays at 5, you can hear the Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter.
And how long is that show, sir?
Well, it's the fastest 45 minutes in radio, really, is what they call it.
That's with the commercials, but an hour, though, right?
Yeah, it's a whole hour long, yeah.
You should subscribe to the News Talk STL newsletter. That comes out typically Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. Joey had a special edition last week that came out Thursday ahead of Gabe Pfeiffer's last day on the morning show. So subscribe to that newsletter. It's got great information in it. It's got all the information about upcoming events and appearances that we're all making. All of the shows I've noticed have been extremely busy this fall with Chris and I and Vic and Jamie and Mike, everybody making appearances everywhere, doing different things, showing up at different places. We have contests. We've got some great holiday giveaway contests coming up. So you're going to want to stay tuned. The best way to know that is to subscribe to the newsletter. You can also go to the website every day, but if you subscribe to the newsletter, you don't have to search for these things. It comes to your email inbox every single week.
And speaking of the newsletter, I think you've been slipping, giving Joey his 100 spot because we haven't been in the thing in a while.
Oh, was it my turn?
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's your turn.
I'll make sure I get on that this
It's been
week.
quite a while.
Well, we had all those remotes every Friday for 3 weeks in a row. So you dominated those newsletters.
We did.
Now we're trying to give some love to the other shows.
Okay, I guess there are 5 other local
Okay,
shows
I
every
guess.
day that we have to play nice with in the sandbox. Following us every evening, Larry Connors USA. Chris will tell you a little bit more about that later on in this hour. Dr. Randy Tobler coming up at 5:25. How about we get to today's speaker's stump speech? Elect the Democrat Socialists, and it'll be New York City and America last.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
I've noticed a bit of panic setting in over at CNN. Not so much MSNBC, but I've noticed a bit because they embrace their full frontal socialism over there. But the networks that are still trying to make you believe that they're fair and balanced and they're just delivering you all the facts, ma'am. You know, the CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC, PBS, NPR to an extent as well. You know, look, those are all liberal-leaning networks. Now, we have hope for CBS. They may be turning that entire ship around. Washington Post seems to be getting a little better. Look, I think that the left overshot its ski. It jumped the shark, to quote a famous phrase from the Happy Days sitcom, when they tore off the Band-Aid over the last few years and said, here comes full frontal socialist communism, America. Don't you want to embrace it? And people absolutely rebelled. Look, the left used to be a lot more clever. They used to be a lot sneakier. They would do things under the guise of what we often refer to in the political public policy world as incrementalism. Just make government a little bigger every year, just a little more intrusive. Give it a little bit more taxpayer dollars. And eventually, kind of like the frog in the boiling pot of water. You remember that little story, right? The frog eventually succumbs to the heat that it so enjoyed. It eventually engulfs itself and it dies. Yeah, isn't that a happy story? Well, it's the same way with throwing the frog into the boiling pot. So if you have a boiling pot of water, like if you just give people all the horrors of left-wing socialist Marxism and shove it in their face, people are going to rebel, right? Why? Because it's bad. It's a bad form of governance. It's a bad way to run a railroad, much less an entire country. But if you so that would be the boiling pot of water to say, here, we're going to turn from a largely representative republic, democratic type of framework where we have a constitution and a Bill of Rights and all these freedoms and liberties enshrined in those sacred documents. Overnight, we're going to shred all of it, and we're basically going to become the Bolshevik Soviet Union. Of course, I would hope nearly all Americans would rebel. I don't know how many wouldn't. Is there like 10 or 15%? Hopefully it's not much more than that are true socialist Marxists, and that's probably too much. But the majority of the supermajority of the population rebel to that. What people don't necessarily, so that's the boiling pot of water that you just suddenly throw the frog in. Well, the frog's going to jump out and escape and go back to the land of freedom and liberty, right? And say, no, thank you. I don't want that. But if you put the frog into a nice warm pot of water, so it's nice and cozy and comfy, it's in its little frog habitat, and then you slowly turn up the heat, it doesn't necessarily notice until it's too late. The liberal left used to be really good at the latter. As I said earlier, just a little bit more government, just a little bit more intrusiveness. We'll just slowly chip away at your rights. It's good for you. Trust us. And then all of a sudden, when it's too late, you don't notice that you went from the United States of America into the People's Republic of America stand. And it's too late at that point. Well, somewhere along the way, between the years of Barack Obama's second term and Joe Biden's first, led by Bernie Sanders, the uber liberal left, the true Marxist socialist communists, they decided that they were tired of waiting. Incrementalism was for them no bueno, and that we would just go full frontal hardcore socialist. And they ripped the Band-Aid off. And thankfully, most Americans, a strong majority of them, rebelled in both the 2017 and then the 2024 elections. And thank goodness, because we saved the country. Well, now I think people are completely freaked out for two different reasons about the New York City mayoral race, which is next week. Number one, I do believe there are a big chunk of old school Democrats still in this country who, although they believe in a bigger, more intrusive government, they don't believe in oppressive socialist Marxist communism. I still think these liberals are wrong. The idea that we should incrementally make government bigger versus doing it all at once is wrong either way. But I don't think that they want to truly oppress the nation and put us all into some kind of gulag. Now, there is a faction that I think does want to do that. The Bernie Sanders AOC squad lunatic liberals absolutely want to do that. But what both camps realize, are waking up and seeing, is America is going to be shocked when Mandami the commie becomes the mayor of New York City. Why? New York City is always important, literally and figuratively. Mayors of New York City can easily become candidates for president of the United States. Mandami is going to be, if he gets elected mayor, he is going to be one of the quintessential leaders of today's Democratic Party. And he is saying the words out loud for the first time ever, I am a Democratic socialist. And I would put the emphasis on the second word, because that's exactly what he does. Is America ready for socialism? I hope not. Not now, and hopefully not ever. We are the world's largest beacon of freedom and liberty, the world's largest representative democracy. And if we give that away through the guise of our once largest, one of our most populous, one of our most free market-driven capitalist freedom and liberty cities, known as the once mighty empire city of New York, then it won't be much of a slippery slope until the rest of the country falls in its wake. Beware, elect the Democratic Socialist, and it'll be New York City and America last. And that's the stump speech for today.
You know, I hate to see this great city about to elect a communist, but, Tim, I always look at things through a political lens. I always have my political hat on. My God, can you imagine Republicans, what they'll be able to run on in 2026 with this guy being
I think so, Chris.
New York?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be the gift that keeps on giving and giving and giving and giving.
And usually what happens, and Chris, I hope this tradition continues, you have an absolute disaster, and then something awesome comes out of the ashes. Dinkins, mayor of New York back in the 90s, complete and utter fail, gave us Giuliani, right? And so I don't know how many times New York can rise as the fiery phoenix. I hope it's not out of chits, because it's going to need one after this guy.
Only thing is, we have to wait 4 years for that great thing to
and
happen,
it's going to be horrible.
It's going to be a long 4 years.
Indeed. True words never spoken. That's Chris Arps. I'm Tim Jones. We'll be back with Dr. Randy Tobler next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Go outside and feel the sunshine. Then I know
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
as long as you love me, girl, we'll fly.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A soaking rain is on the way. Starts off as some scattered showers this evening, but turns more widespread. So we have a steady rain tonight with a low down to 48. Kind of a raw, nasty morning commute with wet weather, probably some ponding on the roads, gusty winds, and that chilly low in the 40s. It's not going to warm up much. A high of 53, showers all morning. even into the early afternoon, although they are lightening up. And by mid to late afternoon, the rain's tapering off. Wednesday's going to be a chilly one with a high of 53 degrees. Mostly sunny, though, Thursday and a dry day with a low 42 and a high of 58. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally. George Soros and his network is behind funding these rallies.
1019 and 94.1.
We don't want kings in America.
News Talk STL.
I always tell you, when it comes to banking, I don't want to deal with some big out-of-state conglomerate when you're just an account number. I want folks who actually know my name, and I have an example of that for you. My wife's birthday was this past Saturday, and on Friday, she received a birthday card from Royal Banks, Missouri. Do you think you're going to get a birthday card from one of the big out-of-state banks? Probably not. And that's why I've been banking with Royal Banks, Missouri for over 20 years. They've been around for more than 60 years, helping families and businesses right here in the St. Louis area. They've just opened a brand new headquarters in University City right there at Olive and McKnight. It's a beautiful building, a beautiful facility, and they're bringing their home base back to where it all started, right there in U City. Speaking of good news, in September, Royal Banks was recognized as the 23rd fastest growing private company in St. Louis and the fastest growing bank in the region at the 2025 St. Louis Business Journal Fast 50 Awards. They've got 16 locations across St. Louis, St. Charles, Illinois, even up in Northeast Missouri. They're still locally owned, they're still independent, and they are here to stay. Check them out at royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks, Missouri, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
This December 13th, join wreaths across America at Belle Reve Gardens Cemetery as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom. Help us lay remembrance wreaths on the graves of our fallen heroes. Sponsor a wreath, volunteer, or bring your family to this meaningful tribute to our veterans, because every hero deserves to be remembered. Learn more and sponsor a wreath. Visit newstalkstl.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Texas is suing the makers of Tylenol over an unproven link to autism. The Texas Attorney General says Johnson & Johnson and Kenvue marketed Tylenol to pregnant mothers despite knowing acetaminophen leads to an increased risk of autism and other disorders.
We are getting now a statement from Kenvue, the maker of Tylenol. Acetaminophen is the safest pain reliever option for pregnant women as needed throughout their entire pregnancy.
And we're going to discuss that volatile issue.
We have an expert.
And many more with the guy standing by, indeed.
Gentlemen, we're about to enter the fascinating sphere of police work, the world of forensic medicine.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
He's at Randy Tobler, MD on Twitter X. He's here at News Talk STL every Saturday morning having great conversations from 6 to 9 a.m. And he joins us now on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Doc, how you doing today?
Doing well. This is interesting. I hadn't seen that Tylenol Texas suit, so that's going to be probably the first of many, I would guess.
Yeah, Doc, we've got a lot of pharmacological news today. Thank goodness we have you on. I know there's some news about mifepristone as well. There's another generic form of that was approved by the FDA. Doc, the thing about Tylenol, I do remember growing up, there was all these studies, right? There's these studies done all the time. This is bad for you. That's, there's a study that comes out every so often, ibuprofen, Tylenol, acetaminophen. And I always wondered, okay, is that because they fed 5,000 pounds of it to a little mouse? Or is it bad in general? Like, I'm sure we don't want to be downing Tylenol or anything drug related every day, but what do we really need to know here, Doc? I guess is my question.
Well, you're right. I mean, I think a lot of the studies that get sensationalized on the, on the major news wires often are things that are even either sort of epidemiologic studies where they're looking at, 20 years of experience and people are asked a questionnaire and, well, were you eating more broccoli than you were American cheese slices, back in 1990? And now have you had some heart problems? A lot of those things are very difficult to sort out. I mean, the statisticians and the researchers do as good a job as they can. But the other is, like, you're right, they're basic research done on lab animals. And the EPA was the FDA was legendary for that. And actually, the EPA had a lot of intersection with that back in the 60s and 70s and even beyond, where, in order to claim maybe a pesticide or some kind of other substance was a toxin, was hazardous to your health, they would use exposures that were just incredible, or they would find that it caused mutations in bacteria, which have different systems for damage and repair in our DNA. So you're right. There's a lot of science that seems to say one thing, but when you boil it down, in the living human being at intermittent dosing, as I'm thinking this Tylenol story, boy, it's going to be awfully hard to really pin the tail on a donkey. And it'll be interesting to see whether, if it comes down to a jury trial, will a jury be convinced by let's say a very charismatic and very effective, attorney, like maybe a Tim Jones, who's just in the courtroom is amazingly effective at convincing someone of that. You know what I mean? A lot of that's going to come down to, I think, emotions. That happened to an old drug called Bendectin years ago, back in the 50s and 60s, and even into, I think, the early 70s. It may have been late 60s, early 70s. Millions of women took Bendectin, which was nothing more than a small dose, smaller than the sleeping pill dose of one of the versions of Unisom, and the generic is called doxylamine, along with vitamin B6, just those simple two components. And it helped a lot of pregnant women with morning sickness. Well, the FDA took that off the market. Not the FDA, but the manufacturer of that took it off the market because of just an avalanche of lawsuits, and they were blamed on birth defects for that, when the science is crystal clear, has been crystal clear, that there was no causative relationship. And in fact, the FDA recently approved basically a version of that, maybe a decade ago now, again, and reminded people that is still a good drug and it works well. In the meantime, because the company was losing so many lawsuits, because of, you wheel a child that has a birth defect in when there's about a 2 to 3% background rate of birth defects in children, and enough moms took it that happened to have a baby with a birth defect. You can see how that can become very emotion-driven kind of litigation. And so, boy, a lot of this is very, very cloudy, especially when it comes to this Tylenol and autism link. I'm just not convinced that there is a strong link there.
Another famous example before I get to my question was when I was in 7th grade in the 70s, when they discovered that saccharin was supposed to be bad for you. And then when they looked within the research, they were giving these mice like the equivalent of like 600 diet sodas a day. So it's like, yeah, of course it's going to cause some type of malady. Dr. Tobler, one of your
there may be some link in high amounts of with bladder cancer. However, it's often difficult to figure out the other things that people do that use saccharin that may have the causative relationship. And saccharin is just an innocent bystander. It's just a signal for something else going on with the folks that are using saccharin but have a higher risk of bladder cancer, for instance.
Dr. Tobler, one of your fans on the stream, Kimberly K., who listens to your show every Saturday, wanted me to ask you, have you heard about this case today about these research monkeys that were in this truck from Tulane that were heading to Mississippi? The truck overturned. 6 of these monkeys escaped. 5 have been euthanized, but the monkeys carried hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID. And wanted to get your thoughts on that. Is this dangerous to the public with this monkey on the loose?
Well, I would think probably not. I mean, hepatitis C and herpes, take close contact. I mean, hepatitis C is largely a bloodborne, and there is some sexual transmission potentially, but that's basically a bodily fluid transmission kind of a thing. And similarly, with herpes, that takes very close contact, and so I doubt that there's a risk there. COVID, I mean, is it some kind of a, God forbid, this is some kind of a Chinese lab in Sacramento?
Oh, I forgot to mention they're Chinese monkeys. Did I say that?
Oh, no, it's a Wuhan knockoff monkey. But hopefully not. I mean, I think if it is some kind of a variant COVID, that maybe they're studying just to see if there's some kind of an antiviral, but taking one of the currently known or recent mutation lines, I wouldn't think there's much of a problem. COVID has become, for very many people now, just a very bad cold, a prolonged flu. I mean, there still are people that get gravely ill and are hospitalized from it, but that happens to folks with influenza, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Dr. Randy Tobler, at Randy Tobler, MD. Doc, we are approaching a unfortunate historical marker where the Schumer shutdown, I think, which it's appropriately called by many, is about to become the longest in history if it goes for about another week. And Doc, even though all of us love politics and love engaging in all the political game, Doc, there's about to become some real world pain here, right? And as much as the Democrats want to grandstand and blame this on Republicans voted to keep the government open. I think they voted now 13 times to keep the government open. And what Democrats are asking for is something that is a red line, a Rubicon that I don't think Republicans can cross. In the meantime, Doc, real Americans are going to start having to make some really tough decisions, especially those in the social safety net that Democrats claim that they always want to support, right?
Yeah, you're very right. I mean, I think that it's going to be interesting to see, especially as we approach people, they're now buying tickets if they haven't already, and they're thinking about traveling on Thanksgiving. We're really not too far away from that. If we go another week, we're 3 weeks away at that point, 3.5 weeks. And I think the travel concerns of people may start to really bring pressure to bear, probably on all legislators. And it's probably going to become a war of the words, at the end of the day. And I have to tell you, I find myself, I don't know if I don't get a chance to listen to your entire show, but I find myself playing an awful lot of Mike Johnson clips because, boy, that guy is such an effective messenger. And I think he's really organized effective messaging within the Republican caucus for a change. Everyone seems to be really making the point, as you did. It's like, hey, we keep voting to open the government. They keep voting that they don't want to. We can't figure it out. I keep seeing in my vision as I hear these things, sort of that hands in the air, what the hell emoji, And I think that that's probably what Americans are feeling if they're frustrated and probably taking a little bit of the brunt of frustration out on both parties. I mean, Congress never fares very well in these things, but one party usually fares worse than the other. In a way, I think there's a real lane here, and I haven't quite figured out how this would happen, but wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if, just like us pro-lifers are always talking about how important it is to encourage and support and nurture moms who are in crisis pregnancies, so that we can really make the point that, close connections within your community and your family and your church and your home, and maybe your state, are really where it matters when it comes to crisis time. And I think in a setting like this, there will be people who are suffering some food hardships. Maybe this is the time for folks to, at their church or at their workplace, to say, hey, we want to help you through, but we also want to remind you that this is the hazard of becoming dependent on a federal government that controls way too much of your life. That may be asking a lot, but I think there's a real lane there. And I hope at some point those discussions are happening, because I think they need to.
Dr. Tobler, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced on X this morning that the U.S. military carried out strikes on 4 more vessels in the Pacific Ocean. 14 people were killed. How much sleep are you losing over this?
I don't know. I also heard that in about 5 of those collisions, of those bombings, the guys were just simply old men duplicating Old Man in the Sea, the Hemingway movie. So I don't know. That may come out pretty bad. But look, I think there's a potential hazard here, and until they at some point, I would love to see some receipts, like from the ruins of these boats. It looks like there's so much destruction when the boats are taken out that there may not be much left to say, see, we told you, here's the actual evidence. We were right, and we haven't made a mistake. And when our intelligence say that this is a cartel boat, running drugs that are going to kill tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Americans, believe it. And it's our right and our duty to do that, to protect the American people. I haven't seen that reporting. Maybe it's out there, and maybe they're still gathering the data. But I think at the end of the day, when people look at there's too many folks that have too many instances, either in their community or sometimes in their own sphere of influence, someone who maybe died or had an overdose, a fentanyl overdose. And I think people are giving a wide berth to the government in this place to say, hey, enough is enough, when this essentially now illegally non-reelected Maduro, who's nothing but a drug kingpin in Venezuela, is wreaking carnage on our and basically the head of a drug operation named a state-run or a state-sanctioned drug deal. I think there's a pretty wide berth. On the other hand, boy, all it's going to take is some proof somewhere that one of these boats were not drug running, and boy, that could be problematic.
Doc, one of the I don't think it was a secret. I was going to say worst kept secrets, but we kind of watch this every day in plain sight. Doc, a Republican-led oversight committee had some new, well, I don't know if it's bombshell news or not. Once again, I think we all expected this, but some news about Biden's illegitimate auto pen use, and apparently corroborated by some of his former senior staffers. I mean, Doc, if this presidency wasn't an entirely puppet presidency, I don't know what was. And all of that is pretty scary, right? The fact that there was basically an empty shell carcass of a human being guided by who knows who in the White House over the last 4 years. And I guess it's no wonder, right, considering some of the carnage that was left in its wake.
No, you're right. And I think, Tim, it probably even to me says more about the people around him.
Mm-hmm.
And it says more about the Democrat Party. And it says, look, people are criticizing Trump and his, quote, overreach and really extending the executive branch and the power that it can vest. But, give me some competent, ambitious, in the name of American first, cabinet members and people surrounding the president. And wow, how about that Caroline Leavitt? Anyone that wants to criticize them for being too aggressive and, wielding too much power, I'll take that any day, 1,000 days over, than people who would back the incompetent, bumbling, ice cream eating Biden, and worse, manipulating the strings behind the scenes, really. These are the same people that are out there, KJP, saying, I was with him every day. Everything was perfect. This guy was perfectly fine. It says so much about those people. It says so much about the Democrat National Committee and the party that would sanction that. They knew about it too. Why weren't the strings being pulled behind the scenes to get the word out and really expose that and fix things? I think probably, sadly for the conservative movement, the Democrat Party would not be in the disarray and the shambles it is. But they're laughable. It's like the clown car in the center ring of Barnum and Bailey circus. It's unbelievable.
Dr. Tobler, one of the most disturbing aspects of this is Joe Biden's personal doctor was subpoenaed and was testifying before a House committee, and he pleaded the Fifth Amendment. Why would a medical doctor plead the Fifth Amendment?
Patient-doctor privacy and security of private information. I think it's a sticky wicket, because if you set the precedent that you're going to divulge personal medical information, that then becomes really a very, very slippery slope. On the other hand, I think that probably there's a real opportunity for his licensing board to really scrutinize what testing did he do. They have every right to do that. I mean, people should be making complaints to whoever licensed that doctor and to his licensing board. And, I think that's probably a very effective way to get at something. Now, would that ever become effective? I don't know. But a sanction with him, a suspension on his license, a mandate that he go back and take some remedial training, if in fact he was, either not doing testing he should have done and just being lazy for a purpose, not to discover something that he didn't want to discover, that's indefensible. And I think, we know what good medicine looks like. The people on those boards know what good medicine looks like and what shabby medicine looks like. They know what corrupt medicine looks like as well. And, that's usually in the drug realm. But, I think maybe there's a lane there. I haven't heard that being sought, but it's a possibility.
Well, one of the speculation that I heard, that he was afraid of the congressman asking him, did you ever see President Biden do this or that or witness something? And he didn't want to lie when he did see Biden being able to do his duties.
Well, right. I mean, I think it was probably both and, right? Because in order to acknowledge that, he would have had to acknowledge that, in fact, there was something wrong with the president, and he would be divulging that publicly. And, that'd be like me saying, if Chris Arps had a problem and I talked about it, if Tim Jones had a problem and I knew about it and I talked about it, it wouldn't be right. Even if I was under testimony, it's not right.
And we'll continue that conversation next week with lots more from the great Dr. Randy Tobler at Randy Tobler MD, Saturday mornings, 6 to 9 a.m. here at News Talk STL. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, sir.
I enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Indeed. When we come back, Chris has got some interesting tidbits on Lindsey Graham.
Got a Siri mishap.
And a Siri mishap indeed. And Larry Connors USA coming at you at 6:05. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A soaking rain is on the way. Starts off as some scattered showers this evening, but turns more widespread. So we have a steady rain tonight with a low down to 48. Kind of a raw, nasty morning commute with wet weather, probably some ponding on the roads, gusty winds, and that chilly low in the 40s. It's not going to warm up much. A high of 53. Showers all morning, even into the early afternoon, although they are lightening up. And by mid to late afternoon, the rain's tapering off. Wednesday's going to be a chilly one with a high of 53 degrees. Mostly sunny, though, Thursday and a dry day with a low 42 and a high of 58. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Our favorite segment of every week is called Vic for Vets. We'll honor another veteran Wednesday at 11:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Well, the weather's obviously a change-in, and fall is going to quickly turn into winter. You can feel it in the air. You can see it in the sky. Do not put off cleaning up the trees, the shrubs, the other type of foliage around your home or your business any longer. Call Hanson's Tree Service today. Go to hansonstree.com. You'll see their emergency service line up there, which is also their regular business line as well, 636-379-1830. Yes, that's at hansonstree.com, along with a lot of other great links Order mulch online. Apply for a hassle-free estimate. 6 months same as cash financing for approved customers. Make a payment on a current order, and so much more. Hanson's provides expert insured tree care, including green resource recycling, grinding, and land clearing. Everything soup to nuts to beautify, spruce up, and prepare your business or your home for old man winter. Check them out today. They're at hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Looking for treasures from the past? Discover Mimi's Antiques Attic, your locally owned and family-operated treasure hunt destination. Explore 16,000 square feet of antiques, crafts, collectibles, and designer items across 225 unique rental spaces. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 7, and Sundays, 10 to 6 at 1000 Warrenton Shops in Warrenton. Mimi's Antiques Attic, where every visit uncovers new treasures.
Hey, St. Louis golfers, looking for a new golfing experience? Sugar Creek Golf Course was voted the most popular golf course in St. Louis. Book your tee time today at sugarcreekgolfcourse.com and join the fastest growing golf community in town, sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And the sunlight hurts my eyes. And something without wanting love bears heavy on my mind.
CBS Evening News co-anchor John Dickerson is leaving the network at the end of the year. In a post on social media this morning, Dickerson said he will leave CBS News after 16 years there. The network has yet to comment on his announcement. In a statement, Dickerson said he was extremely grateful for all the network gave him, saying, quote, "I'm grateful for my dear colleagues who have made me a better journalist and a better human. I will miss you."
5:53 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. I think personally, John Dickerson is being shown the door because he's probably left-leaning and they're trying to get rid of the old guard and bring in some fresh blood.
I wouldn't know him if he walked in the door.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't.
Is he like a superstar on that
He's
network?
He's a co-anchor of the CBS Evening News, Tim. You should know that.
They still have that?
Yeah, they do still have that.
Aren't we on air during their entire broadcast? Probably.
That's our excuse.
There's my excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm busy.
Speaking of CBS News, Brett Baer, the famous Fox News anchor, he was on Meghan McCain's show. I forgot what the name of her podcast show.
Okay.
He said he is not moving to CBS for now, despite reports that Newton Network leader Barry Weiss may try to lure him.
Well,
he said, quote, "I'm in a multi-year contract with Fox. I'm very happy there. Weiss potential changes include looking to bring in more prominent conservatives and harder-hitting investigative reporting." At 60 Minutes, there's chatter about whether Weiss could oust Scott Pelley or Bill Whitaker, but she's apparently a fan of Leslie Stahl. So Leslie Stahl is
really?
not. Yeah, Leslie Stahl.
That's the one she's a fan of?
That's the one she's a fan of.
Yeah.
She's not going anywhere. Jimmy Hoffa is the latest dead public figure to consume FBI employees' working hours. The Trump administration has ordered a search for documents about his mysterious disappearance. The old urban rumor is that he is buried in the end zone in the MetLife Stadium there in New York. I wonder how true that is. Probably. Who knows?
I could be. I used to when I was a practicing young attorney. You know who I used to appear in front of all the time here in the county of St. Louis?
Who's that?
His daughter.
That's right. I
Judge
forgot.
Barbara Crancer. She was always an excellent jurist. She was always very kind and strict. She was always very strict and stern, but I got along great with her, and I always enjoyed when I had cases assigned to her. And I didn't know at first that she was Hoffa's daughter until someone told me about that. And then I was like, ooh, I better behave myself.
Did you know the history? How did she get to St. Louis? Do you know anything?
I do
about her
not.
history?
I do not know. I guess the whole Chicago St. Louis pipeline is not too terribly long, but I was fascinated when I found that out. And I heard somebody speaking about her on one of our other programs the other day. Someone was recounting the story about it. I think maybe been someone talking to Ullman about Jimmy Hoffa, and her name came up in the conversation.
I remember that 1975 he disappeared, and I remember just what a huge big story that was, because he was leader of the Teamsters Union, and at that time the Teamsters was heavily controlled by the mob. I remember when I was a UPS, I was a Teamster in the late 80s. There was a gentleman named Jackie Presser. He was the Teamster president at that time. He ended up being removed, and the government kind of ran the union for a little bit because it had mob ties. So long time connection between the Teamsters and the mob. I don't know if they're still there today, but that's why a lot of people say that Jimmy Hoffa has been, quote unquote, disappeared.
Check this out. Judge Barbara Crancer. I didn't realize she retired so long ago due to probably aging out.
Yeah.
March of 2008. And she is alive, and she is 87 years old.
Yeah, I remember. I forgot all about that. Jimmy Hoffa's daughter was a judge here in St. Louis.
Here you go, Chris. She got her JD degree from WashU.
Ah, okay.
There's your connection.
Pretty
right
good
there.
school. And she decided to stay. Usually people don't decide to stay in St. Louis when they go to school here. They get the hell out of here as quickly as they could. All right. Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, who is up for re-election this year. He had a serious mishap at the Capitol Day. Senator Graham whispered something into his phone, and then Siri responded with full volume, calling Sean Hannity mobile.
Calling Sean Hannity mobile.
Perfect, Joey. Thank you for that. So Sean Hannity is on Lindsey Graham's speed dial. How embarrassing would that be? It kind of sounds like you're like in the pocket of a reporter. Or
it
something.
Does indeed.
Amazing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Sean Hannity mobile. Can you play it again, Joey? I love that.
Calling Sean Hannity mobile.
That's gonna have to be a routine.
Exactly. We're gonna have to fit that somewhere in the show. All right, great show today as always. We went from soup to nuts. And next is Larry Connors USA. He's going to talk about more Democrats dare stand with Mondami. And Larry tells the story behind the story of standing on top of the arch. So you want to stay tuned for that. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a two-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, does having more economic freedom make a difference in people's lives, such as maybe helping reduce poverty?
It definitely makes a difference. Economic freedom